What if one morning you woke up, looked out of the window, and discovered that Earth was no longer a round ball, but a perfect cube? 6 gigantic flat faces, 12 razor-sharp edges, 8 dramatic corners. Stay with this idea for a while, because by the end, you will know why gravity on a cube planet would behave like a mischievous hooligan, and why oceans would run away to the strangest places. First, a tiny, serious fact hidden inside this nonsense. Gravity always pulls things toward the center of mass. On a normal round Earth, that means that down is always toward the middle of the planet, so the surface curves gently around and everything feels normal. On a cube Earth, the center is still in the middle, but the shape of the surface is brutally different, so down stops being a polite, predictable direction and becomes a chaotic prank. Imagine you are standing in the middle of one flat face of the cube. There, gravity pulls almost straight toward the center, so it feels a lot like life on our current planet. Your feet press into the ground, your coffee sits calmly in the cup, and you think, maybe this cube business is not so bad. But walk toward the edge, and something very strange begins to happen. The direction of down tilts, because the center of the cube is not under your feet anymore. It is diagonally inside the rock. Our imaginary hero tries exactly this. At first he walks with confidence. Then he feels as if the ground is slowly tilting, even though it stays perfectly flat. His knees bend, his arms fly out, and suddenly he feels that down is pulling him not only toward the ground, but also sideways, toward the nearest corner. Gravity the hooligan now grabs him by the belt and drags him like a badly behaved dog on a shiny floor. Near the edges, life would be a daily extreme sport. You would feel heavier because gravity would have a stronger sideways component, trying to slide you toward that terrifying drop. Buildings would prefer the safer central regions of each face, because no one wants their house to feel as if it is trying to fall off the world every morning. The edges of the cube would become giant highlands, almost like cursed mountain ridges, where only the bravest or the silliest explorers go. Now, let us talk about water, because water always tells the truth about gravity. On a cube, Earth, water would not politely spread evenly over the whole face. It would flow very stubbornly toward the spots where down is most directly aimed at the center of the cube. Those special places are the centers of the faces. So each face would develop a huge, round ocean puddle in the middle, like 6 gigantic blue eyes staring into space, while the areas near the edges would dry out and rise high like desert plateaus. Our hero, of course, decides to go for a swim. He walks from the dry highland near the edge and feels the pull gently sliding him toward the face center. It is like walking down an invisible, gigantic bowl. Rivers rush past him in thin silver lines, all hurrying in the same direction. When he finally reaches the center, the landscape flattens, the pull feels normal again, and in front of him lies a deep, round sea, collected exactly where gravity is most satisfied. The climate would also join the chaos party. The high edges and corners would become cold and thin-aired, like super-exaggerated mountain chains that wrap around the cube. Winds would curve in weird paths, skidding around the corners. Storms would form over the central oceans of each face, then crash against the dry highlands near the edges, confused by the new geography, like weather that lost its navigation system and is now improvising. You might ask, could a cube Earth really exist for long? Real physics calmly answers, probably not. Gravity prefers to smooth things out. Over very long times, rock would creep, mountains would crumble, and the cube would slowly soften into something closer to a sphere again. The sharp edges would relax, the corners would sink, and our heroic blocky planet would become more round and boring, but also more stable and kind to nervous heroes. Here is the funny twist. When we picture a cube Earth, we imagine something powerful, sharp, and perfect, like a cosmic gaming dice. But the deeper we follow gravity, the more we see that such perfection is uncomfortable for life. It creates wild edges, dangerous corners, sliding cities, and oceans that abandon the coasts and run away to sit exactly in the center. In the end, our ordinary round Earth, with its slightly squashed shape and messy continents, turns out to be the gentle version. So if you ever feel that your life should be perfectly straight, perfectly sharp, and perfectly cubic, remember, our poor hero sliding in panic toward the corners, while water rushes to the middle of the faces. Nature does not vote for perfect cubes. Nature prefers the shape that lets oceans stay where they are, feet stay under the body, and gravity behave less like a hooligan and more like a quiet, reliable friend. Maybe real harmony is not about straight edges, but about a shape that allows you to stand, breathe, and build a home without constantly falling toward the nearest corner of the world.